Hey guys, Pat here. So, we're going to talk about this article by Ranker.com, which is 10 reasons why Apu should be taken off The Simpsons. If you haven't been following this over the last, I'd say, year or two, a lot of people have all of a sudden had a problem with Apu, the Indian character who owns the Quickie Mart in Springfield on The Simpsons, who's been a very loved character since his inception, and I've been a fan of The Simpsons since I was a little kid, like a lot of people. I own the first 12 seasons on DVD. I'd highly recommend buying those DVDs for the commentary tracks. I still watch The Simpsons occasionally, but like most people, I tapped out on the show years ago. I mean, this is a show that used to be one of the most popular shows on television. There was episodes that got over 30 million viewers, to where now the show's ratings are mediocre. They're okay for today's, times of television, but there's not many people watching The Simpsons. Simpsons really isn't relevant anymore like it was. Now, that's not a criticism. It's just been on a long time. And I know the movie came out and made a lot of money. Even that was 10 years ago that movie came out. All right, that was a decade ago. It's a different era now, okay? So, all you ever have to hear about is how The Simpsons is dead, nobody cares about it anymore, nobody watches it anymore, why do they even still make The Simpsons, is what a lot of people say, and I think that's fair. It's it's clear they just keep making it for the money so they can sell more reruns to FXX, or they can keep making merchandising money, or they can, showing it around the world. The Simpsons always makes profit. And Matt Groening's pretty much said, as long as it makes profit, they're going to keep doing it, and it never stops making profit. Here's my problem with the Apu thing. Okay, one, if you get rid of the character now, right? If you get rid of him now, there's still 30 years of Simpsons where he's in it. Early on till now, Apu's in the show, right? I don't quite remember if he came in season 1 or season 2. He was very early. But there's years of Apu, right? So, if you take him off the show now, right now, it would be meaningless. This means absolutely nothing. The Simpsons isn't the top anymore. It's not the King of the Hill. It's not the most famous animated show on TV right now. I mean, it is, if you take the whole thing, the last, 20, 30 years, The Simpsons, yes. But, right now, Family Guy probably does better in the ratings and probably has a bigger fan base that watches it on Sundays than The Simpsons. That's awful. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's probably what it is. And you rarely hear the stuff about Family Guy when they do offensive stuff or when they have stereotypes or go after things. And that's because Family Guy gets a pass for its humor, which it should. All humor should get a pass. If it's done for the sake of comedy, then who cares? But for some reason, The Simpsons is treated like it's on some other level. Like this is still the 90s, the era of Sam Simon and Conan O'Brien and John Swartzwelder and all these great writers and animators, and Brad Bird worked there. They act like it's that time. And they're like, this really just is offensive to Indians. It really pushes stereotypes, and we need to deal with it now. So let's complain about it now and get it taken off now, when it doesn't matter. And if it offended anyone, all that old footage of Apu that runs every day on FXX isn't going anywhere. He's in so many episodes of The Simpsons, it's pointless. I mean, that's really the issue with this. This is pointless. If you had written this in 1995, you maybe could have made an argument, but in today's context, it's like, yeah, let's take a character off a show that's been on way past its prime, and the character's already been established, and he's part of pulp culture. He's everywhere, so you can't get rid of him. But let's look at their list, their terrible list, and let's just the early part here. This is my favorite. We get our good old word, problematic. The Simpsons has been on air for almost 30 years. It's still a beloved series with a huge fan base, yet Apu is a problematic character that needs to be addressed. That's always what it is. He's a problematic character. When did problematic become the go-to word to criticize something without going into detail about it? You just can say that. You're like, no, that's problematic. I mean, do you know that became a meme with Lacey Green that she even makes fun of now? Where every other thing she said was problematic. Even she knows that it became a joke. I mean, it's a parody to say that at this point. To say something's problematic. If you used it occasionally, that would be fine. Once every blue moon. But it's used all the time by the same people. The same people love to just throw out the word problematic. It gets really annoying because they think it means something. Like, I'm supposed to care about your opinion on what's problematic or not problematic, and I'm supposed to care about what some comedian thinks of that, what Indian comedians think about that. Right now, I don't care what anyone thinks about any of that stuff. I'm sorry, your opinion's irrelevant to everyone. It doesn't matter. I'm going to mock it and talk about it, so I guess it's somewhat relevant to me, but I don't care, and I don't agree with you. See, here's the difference between me and you. I actually watched The Simpsons, alright? I've actually seen it. Apu's a great character. He's very funny. He's very likable. He has a big heart, and even when he does the stuff where he's like always trying to screw someone over, and make extra cash or something like that, those stereotypes are more about business owners and him owning this place to make money. It's less about him being Indian. Although I will say they talk about how it's a stereotype. In my town, there's a 7-Eleven. All right, and I work across the street from it. The guy who runs that 7-Eleven, his name's Andy, acts and looks just like Apu. Same voice, same mannerisms, acts exactly the same. And they're on here saying, this is so racist, nobody acts this way. That's always the issue with stereotypes, is a lot of people like to believe that there's no reality to them. When somebody says something, they just go, that's problematic or offensive, nobody could be this way. And then when you meet people in real life that act exactly like a stereotype, you go, okay, so wait, is this person being problematic because they act this way? Or is this just how some people act? And with comedy, which is observing things and making a point with it, maybe some of the Simpsons writers are making fun of that. Maybe there's some satire involved. Maybe they're making a point with it or something. I don't know. Hold on, maybe. It's not like Apu's voice feels over the top and the character feels over the top on purpose or something, which is how I always read it. But no, he's problematic. So the biggest issue is it's not going to do anything if you get rid of Apu now. Another issue is I've met plenty of Indians, and I've had plenty of Indian friends who acted just like this, and I have no problem with that. There's nothing wrong with acting that way. It's just like when people get upset about the black ghetto voice, and then, as someone who's had black friends who talk very much like that, it's kind of like, well, why is that offensive if that's how that person talks? Like, have you ever seen an interview with a rapper? Most of the time, they're like, yo, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Every other word. And I'm like, no, I really don't know what you're saying, but continue. But yeah, if you make fun of that, apparently, if you make fun of that, you're bad. So they're number one. Perhaps Apu's character can evolve. He has to evolve. Yes, it's true that many Indian Americans hate Apu. Yeah, I'm sure they polled every Indian American in this country, which isn't that many, and they asked them all, how do you feel about Apu? Really? They had to experience racial bias and hear taunting things like, thank you, come again, repeatedly throughout their childhood. Yet for many, Apu is a beloved character. Yeah, how horrible. Oh my god, the poor children that had to hear thank you, come again. Oh my god, how do they deal? Oh, it's awful. Now, I feel when I get called a Nazi every day for being a white German guy that doesn't totally agree with everything the left says. And honestly, I agree with most of it, but if you just disagree with 2 or 3 things, you're a Nazi now, but okay. And by the way, Nazi is the white man's N-word, and I don't appreciate you throwing it around so casually. Like, how dare you? I'm gonna throw that. You're culturally appropriating me, alright? Nazi was my people's thing, alright? Quit using it like you own it now. That's my thing. I get to own that word. If we're going off these rules, then Nazi belongs to me. It belongs to German people. If that's the rule we're going with, then quit appropriating my people. You leave the German culture alone. Well, what do you mean Germany doesn't even have swastikas anymore and they banned everything? It's like, I don't care. That especially means you guys don't get to appropriate it. Like, if Germany doesn't want to talk about it, then you don't get to talk about it, you a-hole, you bigots. See how easy it is to point out something like that, and then you realize how stupid it actually is? Anyway, yeah, it's all. I don't want to go into this crap. It's about this documentary that does not provide answers on what the writer should do with Apu. They shouldn't do anything. The comedian does not even think that the character should be killed off the series. Of course he shouldn't. I like that they act like the other characters are three-dimensional and Apu isn't. Okay, in the early days of The Simpsons, the three-dimensional characters occasionally was always Lisa, for the most part. Lisa and Marge are smarter than Homer and Bart. And Lisa is a wonderfully written character. She's very smart. She actually talks about the world. She has the most clarity of what a lot of the writers and people feel about the world and politics and all that. And the rest of the characters are all stereotypes. Homer's a stereotype of a drunk worker, blue collar guy. You know, there's a lot of characters like that. I'm sorry we live in an era where everything's PC and The Simpsons can't be The Simpsons anymore. But the Simpsons always did controversial things that were against the norm. Okay, like. And why doesn't South Park get criticized for this? South Park does stereotypes that are clearly comedic, and everyone loves them. But Apu, for some reason, is offensive because The Simpsons has a heart, I guess is the argument, because The Simpsons has emotions. I hate to be this way. If you're Indian and you're offended by Apu, if things like thank you come again define who you are and upset you that much, that means you're shallow and weak and don't have much going on. Because if that even slightly gets to you, really, and I mean this, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but if that slightly gets to you, the problem's you. The problem is 100% you, and not the writers of The Simpsons and Apu. I just want to let you know that. This isn't Birth of a Nation, alright? The show can't change Apu's accent now. Who cares? God, they're talking about how it's been on for 3 decades and how it's not an authentic accent and it's offensive. Oh my god, Azaria cannot just start voicing Apu with more precise dialect. Yeah, I watched The Simpsons for precise dialect. Yeah, everyone on the show. You realize they're voice actors who are doing exaggerated voices for comedy. That's what Dan Castanella and Hank Azaria do, right? Like they're voice actors. You know Billy West? On Futurama, he voiced Fry, and then he also voiced the Professor and Zoidberg. All different characters with different voices. All because the voice has to be funny to match the image. Mike Judge talked about this on Howard Stern Show. It really comes down to the voices, like Beavis and Butthead. You have to get the voices right. Apu's character wouldn't work as well with another voice. That voice is iconic and funny and really hits. And it always does feel like they're commenting on stereotypes. It never feels like Apu's just a stereotype for the sake of it. It always feels like there's more to it. I mean, you're acting like The Simpsons isn't clever when they think this stuff out. I mean, all of the characters, how they make fun of the Scottish, they've always been very self-aware about what they're doing. And if you listen to the commentaries, you can hear this. It's crazy how intricate the writing was on that show. Like, you're talking about 12, 15 people sitting in a room working on one joke and adding layers and layers and layers to that joke. And you're talking about them really thinking about what's the funniest joke and being very precise. Okay, I mean, you're not talking about a bunch of hacks. You're talking about James Brooks, and Matt Groening and Sam Simon, Brad Bird, who went on to do The Incredibles and all that. A lot of guys who were very great, talented guys working on the show trying to make it something. So they're just acting like they're morons. Now, most of the Simpsons writing staff was Harvard graduates. It wasn't a bunch of uneducated fools who were like, let's just make fun of stereotypes. But yeah, Ranker, he is voiced by a white comedian. I love that they focus on the white part more than the comedian. See, I read that and I go, oh, he's voiced by a comedian, so he's being funny. But they have to put in white comedian. Yeah, a white comedian can't do that voice. All right, so Howard Stern, who's had Robin Quivers on his show so he can make black jokes his entire career, does the black voice, whatever. That moved on in the 90s. And I mean, it's like asking Tarantino about violence in movies. Can we just move on from this? It's a stupid debate. You have no argument to stand up. There's no moral grandizing you can have when it comes to this stuff. Oh, Hank Azaria, a voice actor, did a funny voice for a character, and he's not Indian. He shouldn't do that. That's not how it works, and that's not how it should work. I got to tell you, the characters in Zootopia aren't animals. Turns out Jason Bateman's not actually a fox. Who knew? Who knew? Oh my god. Azaria has thought about Apu's ethnic significance in popular culture. I've never really talked about it. I know it's a touchy subject, says the voice actor. I really do love the character and do try to do right by him accent-wise and character-wise. And that goes for all the characters I do. But I do understand why some people could have been offended or upset, and I'm sorry for that. Well, there you go, he's a nice guy. Apu would not exist as a character if The Simpsons was started today, and that's an issue. That's not a good thing. That just shows you how far back we are. That back when the show started, you could make jokes and do whatever you want. It's so weird to go watch interviews from like the 90s or early mid-2000s on radio shows and all that and see the jokes people are making. Like, there's this, I hate to go back to Howard Stern, but there's this bit where J.J. Abrams is on with, and Artie Lang and everyone is making jokes about J.J. Abrams meeting Spielberg and Tom Cruise and how they both have adopted black kids. and they were asking which kid was more black, and Artie Lang does this whole thing where he's doing a stereotypical black voice, like a ghetto voice, and it's two kids arguing about whose dad's better. Yo, my dad made Schindler's List, dog. Yo, my dad was in Jerry Maguire. And JJ's laughing, everyone's laughing. You know, today if you tried to do that joke, if you in that environment, they're saying that's offensive now. And this wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking like 2006 this happened, you know. It wasn't that long ago you could make jokes about stuff and people got that they were jokes and people understood context. And now they're saying, oh, well, in today's world this wouldn't happen. Yeah, it's because in today's world everyone's sensitive and boring. And they're not saying what they actually feel. They're not getting to the heart of things, and everyone's too scared to say anything. That's not really a good point, that Apu wouldn't exist today if a character... A lot of things that are great about The Simpsons probably wouldn't exist if it was made today. I mean, what a stupid point to make. I mean, wow, a show that came out in the late 80s, early 90s is different in a 2017 context? No crap, man. The Flintstones wouldn't be the same if it was made today. Nothing would be the same if it was done today. The cultural and political landscape has changed a lot since The Simpsons first hit the air in 1989. We are more sensitive and aware of society. He's an example of a character who would never have been written if the show started today. That's not a good point. That's actually a better point for why he should be on the show. Because we do need stuff like this. Because everyone can't be a little sensitive baby about everything that's ever happened. If he didn't exist, we would never have this great character that a lot of people did fall in love with. Apu's name has become a racial slur for Indian Americans. Oh my god. Once again, speaking for all Indian Americans, and they're all so sensitive. Apparently every Indian American is the most sensitive person on the planet. That one character represents them all, and anything that's said to them about him is immediately the most offensive thing on the planet. Many young Indian Americans have had to live with being called Apu as a racial slur against them. Oh god, what do you do? He was like, dude, there's this guy on the show. He runs the Quickie Mart. Thank you, come again. It totally effed with my childhood. You're not going to catch me selling hot dogs or working at 7-Eleven. Once again, there's a guy who works at a 7-Eleven in my town right across the street. Acts exactly like Apu. And I don't know if he's just playing that up maybe to make money, which is a fair point, but still, it's like he doesn't care. He gets the fun of it. He even says to me when I walk out, he says, thank you, come again. That's the funniest part. Does nobody get that this was based off real stuff? Like they didn't write all this as just as a simple joke. Like there was actually guys who owned 7-Eleven that would say, thank you, come again. Like it's like in SNL when they did the cheeseburger sketch. That was a real place where they did that. No, Pepsi, cheeseburger. That's where a lot of comedy comes from. But apparently all these people are acting like Indian guys who say thank you, come again, never worked at 7-Eleven. All right. The same stale stereotypical jokes are old. Every joke on The Simpsons is old. It's been on a long time. It's been like 27 seasons. This could go for anything. This actually should be why The Simpsons shouldn't be on anymore, because this applies to everything. Homer's jokes are old. Lisa jokes are old. Bart jokes are old. Marge jokes are old. Moe jokes are old. Barney, all the jokes are old on The Simpsons. It doesn't really matter if it's stereotypical jokes. Everything's burnt out. You go watch those original seasons, that stuff's still really witty and clever and well done. That's why it holds up. Oh, God, it's had creative ups and downs. Not really. It's just mainly had a high creative up and then a lot of downs. Apu's fundamentally flawed stereotypes. Everything is through the lens of a white person's perception of an Indian immigrant. It's the same jokes. India has over 1 billion people. Something about curry gods with many arms and elephants' heads. Arranged marriage. You know, here's the thing, though. Okay, 1 billion people... probably out of that group don't give a crap about Apu's character on The Simpsons, and they get that it's a joke, and it's its own thing. But you're complaining about it like it's relevant to the billion Indian people. They probably don't care. To be honest, I assume most of them don't care. Apu is a completely one-dimensional character, and that's something I don't agree with. I don't agree with that at all. I remember when Apu lost the Quickie Mart and went and stayed with The Simpsons and sang on the top of the thing about how he needs the Quickie Mart. They're like, who needs the Quickie Mart? And he goes, I do. Apu has always shown range as a character. I feel like these people haven't watched The Simpsons. When you watch The Simpsons, every character has their own little episode where they have an arc that shows another side to them throughout the whole show. Sure, Homer's like a drunken buffoon, but then he has these wonderful moments with his family or a wonderful moment with Marge. It feels very real and human. And Apu's the same way. He had many episodes where he was humanized and had an emotional arc. I don't know where they're acting like they never have. I love they have the picture of him on top of the Quickie Mart with the gun, and that's supposed to be offensive, and an image that has impact. Apu is one-dimensional and exaggerates Asian stereotypes. This is like that movie Don't Be a Menace to South Central while you're drinking your juice in the hood when they go to that Asian supermarket and the lady's like doing flips and stuff and like, hurry up and buy. And it's hilarious. Like they're saying, oh, you couldn't make that joke today. It's too offensive. These images have impact. And it's part of a larger legacy. This has been there since the beginning. The idea of wearing out people and describing people in these one-dimensional ways. It gives you a sense of power over them. You're better than they are. You're smarter than they are. You're the one who fits and they don't. I've never felt that way about Apu, that I'm smarter than him and better than him. I've just laughed and enjoyed his character. It's never been presented to me that way at all, that I think I'm better than a character in this. And they don't even approach it that way as writers. I don't know where he got... This perception of the show he has is so off. Apu's Indian accent is not authentic and it's offensive. Who cares? Sorry. Sorry, I don't care. Oh, I'm gonna get some comments. What about the Indian people who care? I don't care what they think. I really don't. I know you want me to. I know it hurts your feelings so bad that I don't care what they think. I don't care what anyone thinks. I just care about what I think. And I don't care about Apu's voice. And I've met Indian people and they talk, a lot of them have talked this way. Some of them haven't. They've never complained to me about Apu. I've never called them Apu. I've said thank you, come again as a joke before, but I've said it to white people more than anyone else. It's just a catchphrase. It's a catchphrase in a funny voice. That's what it could be. Anything. Oh my god. The Apu stereotypes have a greater effect on older Indian immigrants. Yeah, I'm sure. Indian Americans in their 20s and 30s have certainly felt the fallout from the racial stereotypes of Apu. I love it that they've all been so affected by it. Oh my god. At the end of the day, the character wasn't really going after me and my friends. No, it wasn't really going after anyone. It was really going after people who are much more vulnerable, which are my parents, immigrants, and people who are able to control their image even less than we are. Oh my god. There could be continued backlash. Yeah, True TV talking about Apu. Yeah, I'm sure that really affects everyone at The Simpsons. I'm sure they really care what True TV has to say. That network that everyone just watches from Practical Jokers. Yeah. God, I love that they make the documentary and they act like the documentary actually had impact. Nobody watched that documentary. Like, compare that to how many people watch The Simpsons, or have watched The Simpsons. I've never even heard of this thing, the problem with Apu. And they say it's going to be continued backlash. Yeah, you're backlashing against a show that's already been on and already affected the world and culture. You can't change it. That's the problem. You can't change it at this point. If you wanted to change it, you would have had to stop it years ago. It's already happened. It's done. It's over. You lost. Like, let's say you're all right and they should have never done Apu and it's offensive and it's racist. That's fine. Let's say that's true. Okay, well, you lost. It's already lost. It's like trying to make the Civil War not happen and slavery or the Holocaust or anything. It's like, it happened. It's over. It's settled. The Simpsons has been on. Apu's an established character. And it's been on long enough that changing it now is... It's literally pointless. It's not me just saying that because I was a fan of The Simpsons. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore, man. I don't care what's on The Simpsons anymore. And most people don't. We've all moved on. If you're still hung up on Apu, that means you're living in the past. Oh my god, Apu's character promotes dangerous stereotypes. Oh look, Apu's holding a shotgun. Yep, I think all Indians want to shoot me with their shotgun. That's a common stereo. Yeah, every time I see an Indian, I get scared their kids have shotguns. Apu feeds the beast of bias that turns an entire sect of people into a punchline. There was a time when the comedian used to make jokes about his Indian immigrants' parents, but he said that his humor changed following 9/11. My comedy shifted from the way people saw me to the way I wanted to be seen. Well, good for you! And how was it? Okay, so virtue signaling from this comedian, virtue signaling from Ranker. Really no insight into why Apu's really offensive. No actual data to show how much of a reach Apu has to the Indian community and Indian Americans. Like, it's just a lot of anecdotal evidence, a lot of subjective opinion. I'm not seeing any numbers here of how many people are offended by Apu. And the article said, the original article said after years Apu might finally be taken off The Simpsons. But then when you click it, it just says 10 reasons why Apu should be taken off. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think most people actually care. I think it's like anything else. Somebody gets affected by it and upset, and they want everyone else to get upset about something too. And because you're not upset like they're upset, they get offended. That's the issue. It's just it's the career of being offended. You get offended by one thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then it keeps building and building until that's all you really have to say is what bothers you and what offends you, and you have nothing positive to add to it. If you want Apu to evolve and you want it to be more, here's an idea. Make your own animated show. Write characters that are representing Indians the way you want them to be represented, and make it such a good show and such an important show that it's as popular as The Simpsons, and it changes all that. Why don't you do that? Why don't you go make your own animated show that's great? Because it's what always happens here. You stand on the shoulders of giants. You stand on the shoulders of others who worked hard and created these iconic things, and then you have the balls to criticize them and talk about what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Because to you, for some reason, this makes no sense to me. For some reason, some people think that they know what is right or wrong or what's offensive or not. When it comes to comedy in particular, there's a reason that offensive stuff's appealing. It's appealing because we all know there's certain things about life that are true that we really can't talk about. And comedians can talk about it, but because they make it funny, because it has a comedic bent, you can take it in a little bit more and then think about the truth of the world, right? I'm sorry, I've known people like Apu. They are real. It does exist. I've heard it. I've seen it. And you can deny it all you want, which is fine. You don't have to believe in it. That's cool. You don't have to believe that there's this Indian 7-Eleven stereotype or anything like that. But I've met them. It doesn't mean it's all Indians, but that's Apu's character. He's one of those guys. He's a guy who owns a gas station, and he makes money that I don't know, like, that's his character. And it's more a lot of jokes about a guy who owns a business and the gun pulling out and stuff. You could make those same jokes about a white character who owns a business, a black character, a Hispanic. It'd be the same joke. It doesn't matter. You're just mad because it's an Indian, because that's who they picked. I mean, oh my God, it's never racist when they think about it. Okay, they didn't just sit there and go, oh, this would be funny because it's a stereotype. You know, they put thought into it. Okay, Apu is more realized than you think. You may be able to simplify it to this one-dimensional thing to where you find that, oh, all these things are problematic. But the truth is that the only person here who's really problematic is you. Because for that whole thing where you think you're smarter and above everyone else, that's you. That's yourself. That's projection. It's you thinking you're smarter and better than everyone else, and then you can simplify everything to what it is. You think you can do that. Not the writers of The Simpsons. And I'll say this: I will take Sam Simon, the great Sam Simon, who passed, I believe, last year. I will take his work and his words over anything that you have to say. And everyone who worked on there, and Hank Azaria, keep doing the voice. And like I said, none of this ultimately matters because The Simpsons isn't as big as it once was, and there's too many years of Apu. If it is damaging, the damage is done. Like the Foreigner song. The damage is done, and you can't do anything about it. But that's just me. What do I know? Well, I know enough not to get triggered by cartoon characters, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm not sensitive to the world. I've not adapted to the modern day. I'm not in the current cultural and political landscape. No. That's why I still go watch old Simpsons, and it's still great. That's why it's still amazing. Because it isn't a product of today. It's a product of a better era of comedy. But anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Please rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. And if you're a Simpsons fan or if you're Indian and it's offended you, hey man, what are you going to do? Here's my advice. Get up, drink your coffee, take your Tylenol, whatever you start your day with, make sure your fingernails are all nice, take a shower, brush your teeth, make sure to brush for 2 minutes, don't forget to floss, and just try not to care. Really, there's a grace and beauty in not caring, and it builds your character, and it actually helps everyone a lot more. I know you say, well, if people didn't care, nothing would ever get done. It's what you care about. Should people care about, the Jews in World War II and all? Yes. Should people care about a cartoon character on a TV show with a I guess offensive voice that hurts some people's feelings? No, you shouldn't. There's more important things to talk about. There's more important problems, and I think Indian immigrants have a lot more to deal with day-to-day life than Apu stereotypes. But maybe that's because I think of them all as a collective, collective instead of a collective, but as individuals. I don't think of them all as one group of people that feels this way. I'm sure a lot of Indians love Apu, but apparently you get to speak for all Indians, which to me is the ultimate form of narcissism and probably racism, because in a lot of ways racism is comes from narcissism, where you're so self-obsessed. You think that you represent Indians and Indian Americans just because you have a problem with Apu, and you found some really a gimmick to go after him to get some hits. And it's no different than an Anita Sarkeesian video or what Lacey Green used to do. Yeah, have fun getting praised on Tumblr. The rest of us are going to continue to watch The Simpsons. Well, not the current, but watch the old Simpsons and not care. And I suggest you do the same.